there's a matter that concerns us. And you know that last week, Thursday, we put out an editorial about lockdown, and we were unhappy with the Ghana Medical Association's directives or suggestions to the president. Eventually, the president spoke, and he spoke on Friday. And he said a few things. That statement made by the president has now become a globally iconic statement. And all over the world, everyone, including WHO officials and other heads of state, journalists from England, everywhere, are praising President Akufo-Addo for delivering such an amazing speech. Especially, they are praising him for putting the lives of Ghanaians ahead of the economy. But there was something that the president said that totally delighted us here on Good Evening Ghana, because we had made the point in our editorial that we shouldn't import solutions from France. And that's why we're unhappy with the Ghana Medical Association, that this lockdown that is held in Luxembourg and is held in London and is held everywhere else, that they are importing and putting pressure on the president, was unfair to the president, because we needed to design our own solutions. We were delighted when this line found its way into the president's speech. This is what the president said about that.
We cannot afford to copy blindly and do all the things some other well-developed countries are doing. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to this pandemic. We have a unique situation in our country, and we must take it into account in dealing with the disease, whilst meeting all the 6 key WHO guidelines on the most effective ways of combating the pandemic. We cannot afford to copy blindly and do all the things some other well-developed countries are doing. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to this pandemic. We have a unique situation in our country, and we must take it into account in dealing with the disease, whilst meeting all the 6 key WHO guidelines on the most effective ways of combating the pandemic.
Delightful, isn't it? Totally delightful. This is the only president who could have led Ghana at this time in this way, in this manner, and could hopefully take Ghana out of coronavirus, COVID-19. That's the point we're making. We cannot copy blindly. We use the word importation, and that's a concern we had with the Ghana Medical Association. If you think that there should be a lockdown, I mean, the point we're making is that the diagnostics of the problem is a matter for the Ghana Medical Association. That's a matter for them, because they are the experts. So they diagnose a problem and say that, Mr. President, we have COVID-19 now in our country. What we need to do is to reduce the number of people talking to each other, mixing up with each other. How that is done, the mechanism that is done, is not a medical solution. The medical diagnostics informs the policy. The policy design is not medicine. That's the point we're making. That's the point the president made. If you tell us that we should do lockdown because you've heard it in France, and that you've heard it in Paris and Luxembourg, France, Paris, Luxembourg, Switzerland, somewhere, and you immediately come and tell the president that let's do the lockdown, that's the kind of response you get. The president is going to tell you that we cannot copy blindly. Blind copying. That is what we are saying. The elite must have original thinking for our solutions, not blind copying. Let's hear the president again on that one. On blind copying.
We cannot afford to copy blindly and do all the things some other well-developed countries are doing. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to this pandemic. We have a unique situation in our country, and we must take it into account in dealing with the disease, whilst meeting all the 6 key WHO guidelines on the most effective ways of combating the pandemic.
Okay, so we will not overflog the horse. I think that now everyone agrees with us, and they see the point we are making. We are exceptionally happy that the president and his team seem to have agreed with that position as well, given that it found a line in their statement. Okay, now there's another part of the president's statement that also made the headlines around the world. He talked about how we cannot bring people from life, and that we are able to return the economy back on even keel. Now, the president made this, set the foundation for this particular statement that has been called plagiarism in some quarters, is being called paraphrasing in some quarters, but essentially it has received global applause in terms of the president's attitude to dealing with the problem. Now, the president started by talking about the kind of economy that he inherited, and also said that he had been able to grow the economy to grow at 8%, and unfortunately that this year the economy is now being projected to grow at 2%, and said that, however, he knows how to bring it back, but he doesn't know how to bring lives, and so the lives are more important. This is what the president said.
With the Bank of Ghana predicting a worst-case GDP growth rate scenario of 2.5% for 2020, should the virus continue to linger for the rest of the year, the effects on our economy would be dire. However, as we have demonstrated over the course of the last 3 years, where we inherited an economy that was growing at 3.4% and transformed it into one which has grown by an average of 7% over the last 3 years, I assure you that we know what to do to bring back our economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring people back to life.
So you heard that. That was the foundation the president laid, that we have done this before in terms of resuscitating the economy, so we can do it again. What we don't know how to do is to wake up dead people. Jesus Christ, the legendary Jesus Christ of Nazareth, did that though in the Bible. He brought Lazarus back to life. But we are not Jesus. And so the president said that he and the NPP government are not able to bring people back to life. Okay, that was the part that got severe. Did I say severe? That was the part that got serious applause from the general public. I will show you some of the examples of how people around the world have applauded President Akufo-Addo for the spirit behind the speech that he gave. Then the president moved into his executive authority in the speech, and it was quite intimidating, I have to say. At this point, the president was quite intimidating, and he gave an order, and then he even talked about pursuant to the powers granted him by the Constitution. So after the friendly discussion, the president moved into full gear as Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. This is how he showed it.
Especially residents in the affected areas of Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi, to be reminded every day that the front line of the fight against coronavirus is your front door. If you cross it, you and your family will likely be infected. So please, stay at home.
I'd like to take that again. If you cross it, that's a warning. If you cross it, you and your family will be infected by the disease. So stay at home. That's an order pursuant to the executive authority. This is Akufo-Addo now as Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. Hear him again.
Especially residents in the affected areas of Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi, to be reminded every day that the front line of the fight against coronavirus is your front door. If you cross it, you and your family will likely be infected. So please, stay at home.
So the president started the speech as head of government. He was talking about what the government will do, what the government can do, and why the government is doing these things. Then he moved into head of states, where he assumed his role as commander-in-chief in what we just showed you. In the end, he came out again as a human person, as a Ghanaian, as a real human person, as an Akan person, and as a Ga person. That was also delightful and deserved quite a bit of applause from communication experts who were assessing the president's speech. It actually didn't deserve, it got applause from communication experts who were assessing his speech. Here, the president spoke in Twi and in Ga.
In Simama Kane, Yenina Yam Bomoding, Nin Disu, Yankopon Adaroma, a bad boy, Min Panify, Sanini Niwie, Yafanya Boamoding, Ni Yeno, Nimodromo, a Bawa Wafan.
Nyumadromo Ebawa Wofen. By the grace of God, God will help us. God will help us by his grace. Nyumadromo Ebawa Wofen. That's President Akufo-Addo, being a human Ghanaian, being an Akan, and being a Ga at the same time. So after this speech, and after I went around on Twitter and everywhere, global heads of state, heads of government, WHO experts are all clapping for President Akufo-Addo, irrespective of whether there was paraphrasing or whether there was plagiarism. The important thing is that this is the time for people to look at leaders and see whether these leaders are worth their salt. Akufo-Addo clearly demonstrated from this speech that he is a leader worth his salt. And I'm not the one saying it. And I'm picking the line also from one of the great leaders of our society, a man who we have few difficulties with here on this program. But this is what Flight Lieutenant Rawlings said about Akufo-Addo after the speech.
We are very fortunate also that somebody like Nana Akufo-Addo has emerged over here. People think I like that man to high heavens. No, but I respect him for certain principles, certain values. And I will continue to pray, and I sincerely hope that he stays the track. We are very fortunate also that somebody like Nana Akufo-Addo has emerged over here. People think I like that man to high heavens. No, but I respect him for certain principles, certain values. And I will continue to pray, and I sincerely hope that he stays the track.
J.J. Rawlings sincerely hopes that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will stay the track and that he will be a great leader. That's Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, founder of the National Democratic Congress. And there's a video that's also gone round. This is a very ordinary person, normal person like you and I, sitting in his car, just overwhelmed and impressed by Akufo-Addo's speech. And he put out a video that's become very popular and was trending on Facebook. So we captured the video for your attention. Here is a very local Ghanaian.
Ghana for said 2020 elections, man, this form cause some more and before from with the way Nana Addo I exhibit leadership, ewo Chroma Hano. Hey! Akwano, Yamine Yin so member the president to me Donyame. Akwanin president di. Ha! Musha Andra Adia President Akufo-Addo ye. Everybody Nana Nyankopon. Nana Addo. Elections no be unforget it. Obi unforget elections no. Obi unforget elections because Nana Addo winning. Me so kwa Twitter on. Go and check the number of youths. Omu tweeting about Nana Addo. Go and check the number of people omu ka Nana Addo ho asem. Hey, Nana Addo, we are champion the whole Ghana. President beyond the one ma waba. Osin Nana Addo in this crisis pa. Ana Nigeria ni kano. Se Ghana for yam pena, yam fa no nko Nigeria. Na me say Cameroon for ni Senegal for ni nkofo bebre so omo pe Nana Addo. Na Ghana yet na hanom. Nana Addo andro ni oye no. In spite of crisis, the kind of decision the man.
So that was an ordinary Ghanaian, ordinary as you and I, talking to his friends on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I believe, and we captured that. If those don't represent your own views about the speech, you may send us a message on Good Evening Ghana Official here on Facebook, and we will react to it as quickly as we can. So that was an ordinary Ghanaian. This is Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is a seasoned British journalist. He's written for many British newspapers, and he was famously the CNN host for the program Larry King Live. When Larry King Live retired, when Mr. King retired from CNN at the age of 80-something, it was Piers Morgan that was selected to replace Larry King's hour of current affairs broadcasting on CNN. So Larry King is a global journalist of immense consequence. Here is Piers Morgan speaking on UK's ITV in the morning, on their morning show about President Akufo-Addo.
I keep saying this. You've got to have a simple message that gets through to people. Have we got his tweet, President of Ghana? I think we've got an issue with our graphics. Let me read it out for you. The President of Ghana, President Akufo-Addo, said, "We know how to bring the economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring people back to life." Now that, to me, right there, that's what we're talking about.
Lays it on the line, doesn't it?
Interesting thing here, Hillary, I thought, Ocado. I keep saying this. You've got to have a simple message that gets through to people. Have we got his tweet, President of Ghana? I think we've got an issue with our graphics. Let me read it out for you. The President of Ghana, President Akufo-Addo, said, "We know how to bring the economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring people back to life." Now that, to me, right there, That's what we're talking about.
Lays it on the line, doesn't it?
Interesting thing here, Hillary, I thought, Ocado.
So that's Piers Morgan, an international UK journalist speaking on ITV's morning show, recognizing the tweet from President Akufo-Addo and giving him wild applause. He says the message ought to be kept simple and it has to be kept real. I guess he was criticizing the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who is actually now recovering from an infection of COVID-19. And I'm sure Piers Morgan was criticizing him for his message not being simple. And his example of an exemplary message is that of Ghanaian President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Thumbs up to you if you're a Ghanaian watching me everywhere in the world. Your president is being recognized all over the world, including by WHO and all the experts about this matter in terms of his last Friday's speech.